What's up, YouTube? Coming back at you with another knife review. We're looking at a Kizer model for 2017. This is the Task 1. Gentleman by the name of... oh, jeez, it's gonna escape me here. Ulrich, something or other. Hennicke. It's a German designer. Sorry if I mispronounce that one. That's going to be hard to say. So let's go over the basic specs of this guy. As I bump the tripod. Ugh. I swear, wouldn't be a video if I did do that. Basic specs on this guy: overall length is 7.5 inches. Your blade length is 3 1/4, with a thickness of 0.12. So pretty good blade stock there. Got a drop point blade with a flat grind, stonewash finish, with a 4.25 inch handle, 0.49 inches thick, and weighing in at 4.39 ounces. So this is like a perfect size knife in my opinion. It really is a great size. It's just right in the wheelhouse, the sweet spots for me. So I've been wanting to try this one out. It's not a flipper, it's a thumb stud. You know, sometimes you get so many flippers, it starts going crazy. But when I first saw this knife a while ago, I really liked it, wanted to try something different. And I never did pick it up. And I finally picked one up recently, a couple weeks ago, and had some good amount of time with it. And let's just kind of go over, the basic kind of things I do in the video, and then I'll give my kind of final thoughts on what's good and bad about this knife. So the action on this is great. You do have a ball bearing pivot, which you don't always see on. Let me real quick just show you your typical Kizer packaging, and it has a little pouch. These pouches are awesome. I love that they give you that. So Kizer definitely always gets brownie points from me for their packaging for their knives. So I'm just going to bring this in a titch. There we go. Alright. So the action is very smooth. It's on bearings, like I said. It'll drop free. Nice to see that on a thumb stud knife. I like that. I do like washers quite a bit, and I'm not particularly like anti-bearing by any main shape or the imagination. It is nice and snappy action on this one, so I really do like the action. The ergonomics on the handle are good. They're not mind-blowing. They're not like, holy cow, that's the most comfortable knife I've ever had in my hand, but they're solid. They're good. The size of the knife is one of the things, like I said, that it attracted me to it. I like this size. Just to kind of give you a size comparison, let's bring in a large Untitled, which is essentially the same size as a large Sabenza, and then a small Sabenza. So it's right in between those two knives. It's smaller than the large Untitled, but slightly bigger than the small Sabenza. So right where I've always wanted Chris Reeve to make a knife. I do love the small Sabenza. I love the large Untitled, but I would love to see a Sabenza on the side. So that's why I know the reason why I was attracted to this, because you got titanium handles, you got S35, thumb studs, dual thumb studs. It's pretty much the Sabenza that I always wanted, minus obviously the fact that it's not a Chris Reeve knife. That's not a slam or anything at Kizer. This is a great knife for the money, but so. First, when I wanted to get this knife, I'm just going to go right into this. I was really attracted to it by a lot of ways because of the size, the blade, the flat grind, so many things. I heard it's a pretty good slicer. I did measure this with my calipers. It is 0.25 inches behind the edge, which is not crazy thin, but it's also good. Got my new battery for my caliper, by the way, so it's thin behind the edge. It's not like crazy thin. See, that's only 1 point. I'm going too high. That's why. See, that's 2.275. So it's anywhere from 0.25 to 0.275, depending on how well you can get it on there. But it's thin behind the edge. Not as thin as the Untitled here, which is a shocking 0.20 thinness behind the edge. I've always thought the Sabenzas to be more robust blades. They actually are very thinly ground typically. That's an Untitled, and I noticed my Untitles are a little bit more thinly ground than my Sabenzas, which is interesting. So Anywho, so it is pretty thin behind the edge. I like that. It should be a good slicer. Well, you know, it's got a great action. The price is good. You know, what's not to like? Well, honestly, the pocket clip is one thing. Now let me do something I was going to do. I used to do this in all my videos back in the day. And I'm going to zoom out quite a bit. And I used to bring in an old pair of jeans just to show you how deep a pocket clip would ride. And I'm going to start doing this again because I always appreciate this when people do this on their videos. I think Cutlery Lover started this like years and years ago. So as you can see, here's an old pair of Lucky jeans I don't wear anymore because they're torn to pieces, and that's how deep the knife rides. So it's not necessarily a deep carry, but it's pretty deep. You only have a little bit of knife sticking up. So the clip, it works well. It is a milled titanium clip. It does kind of protrude from the knife a little more than I like necessarily. Let me zoom back in. And that the clip actually is one of the negatives, which sounds funny because it's kind of deep carry. It's a nice milled clip, but it also creates some hot spots in the knife. When you hold it in the reverse grip, you definitely feel it. Let me get that back out. You definitely feel it right here on your index finger. For me, you kind of feel a hot spot if you're in this grip, and even if you're in the normal grip and you grip the knife kind of hard, you totally can feel that hot spot right here. So the clip does kind of create a hot spot. Now, not necessarily wrenching down on a knife like that, but if I had to, it's nice when a clip doesn't give you a hot spot like that. So that is one of the negatives of this knife. The other thing that's kind of a negative is the pivot on these Kizer knives has kind of been problematic for some on some of their models with this double-sided pivot that can spin, and you have to use 2 torque drivers, and it can be a pain. And I haven't experienced it so far in this. I haven't had to take it apart for anything. It's very smooth, out of the box, so I didn't really feel like I needed to mess with it. But that could be seen as one negative on this knife. And the other one is it's kind of boring. It's another. I mean, Kizer has a certain model that they follow, and that's fine. But all their knives are pretty much this kind of matte gray titanium, same hardware. Sometimes they dress it up with a little blue anodization, and it's just kind of plain. That's not Kizer's fault. That is obviously that's the knife industry right now. All these knives are like this. If you get a titanium frame lock, typically it's going to have a bead blast finish like this, or it's going to have a finish similar to the. I got 2 Sebenzas. I thought I had a stonewash one, but stonewash finish. Pretty much you don't get a lot of color. It's kind of bland. Positive on that end on this knife is you have a pretty blank canvas to work with. So if you're good at anodizing or want to send this in for custom work, it would be a good choice because you're not into the knife a ton of money, and it is pretty blank canvas. You could have some anodizing done. I would just like to see more companies do what like WE Knives does. What they do, and some of their colors are kind of over the top, but I do appreciate it because they're doing something a little different, and they're kind of dressing the knives up a little more, even if it came in a blue anodization or just some sort of different, maybe like a dark, like the custom knife factories are doing with the black wash and ZT's been doing. It's just something different. Like now I look at this knife, and if I would have bought this knife a couple months ago, I would have been like super stoked on it, and it'd probably be part of my EDC. Now I'm kind of just getting bored of this plain Jane titanium gray knife, and a knife I'll be reviewing here soon that kind of will break that mold a little bit is the ZT0055 with its pretty crazy design. That custom knife factory Gavco that I just reviewed, the spinner, another one that kind of broke that up, and I really am attracted to that because it's just different. There's so many, there's hundreds of these titanium frame locks now that look a lot like this. It's kind of just plain Jane. For some, that may attract them to this knife. They may like that, appreciate the, plain Jane approach to it. And if you would have talked to me 2 months ago, I would have said, that's me. Right now, I'm just kind of bored of it. And maybe it was bad timing to get this knife for me because it's probably one I won't hold on to because of that. It is a fantastic knife, don't get me wrong. There's lots of good things going on. The goods absolutely outweigh the bads in this one. Price is great. It has a good size, nice smooth action. I like the blade grind. I like the thinness on behind the edge. I like a lot of things, the price, the steel, the materials used, but even a simple carbon fiber scale like this, what a difference that would make to that knife, right? Wouldn't that look sweet with the carbon fiber scale? And you still have the titanium Loctite. I mean, I just want to see Kizer do something a little more creative, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So that's just my opinion, not to take anything away from the design and this knife. It's a great design, it's a good overall knife, but for me it's just a little normal, a little boring, and that's not what I'm kind of in the mood for these days. So even, you know, like the Cutlery Sabenza here with the crosshatch, it's different. It's a different color. It's got a different milling pattern. It was something that like totally caught my eye. This is just the plain B blast finish. I'll probably have this custom anode one day, but this is, you know, versus a plain Jane Sabenza, this stood out to me quite a bit more, even though it's the same knife. So anywho, just a little rambling there, a little rant, I guess you'd say. But it is a good knife, and if this is what you're into and you like the style and the, you know, things of it, I would definitely recommend it. For me, it's just a little boring at the moment. So there you go, guys. That's my review on the Kizer Task 1. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. We'll see you on the next video.